Hello. We return after taking September 7th off to accommodate Christian's very busy but very rewarding and meaningful personal day. That's all I will say on the nature of that topic, which also was fortuitously timed for me as it gave me a chance to prepare for a big day of my own, which was of a different kind of significance and also, smaller scale, not quite as, profoundly important, but definitely a full circle moment for me personally that many of you saw on my personal social media, having taken place in Beverly, Massachusetts. But that's not really of all that much importance right now. Of course, us taking that day off did mean that the tribute that takes place tonight had to be postponed. We've made our own gestures, provided some mini testimonials of sorts on our platforms. But nevertheless, of course, this week we honor the legacy of Kenneth Wayne Dryden, who, of course, recently passed away after a battle with cancer. Oh my gosh, this is just like the last that really hit me like a truck when it came in. A little over a week ago now. Gosh, this is hard. Like, it's hard to put in words that do adequate justice. It's appropriate, perhaps, to start, given that his educational path in life had such profound impact on his overall arc during his and after his professional playing. So I guess really where this starts is remembering and reflecting upon what he accomplished during his collegiate career at Cornell University with the Big Red. As noted, he had an opportunity to play early on as professionally, as he was actually drafted by the Boston Bruins, 14th overall in the 1964 NHL amateur draft, directly from the junior B system, having played with the Etobicoke Indians and the Humber Valley Packers in the Metro Junior B Hockey League and Metro Toronto Hockey League, respectively. Of course, he was traded by Boston and to, of course, their most, prominent historic rival in the form of the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for Paul Reed and Guy Allen. Guy, sorry, forced to habit.
Yallen.
To be fair, I think I earned a bit of a mulligan there, given that I've been
Yeah.
spelling honor and color with a U in respect to the Canadian origins of the player involved. But yeah, I nevertheless apologize for that. But yeah, of course, Paul Reed and Guy Allen were the returned, really a nothing burger trade on the receiving end for Boston in that deal, as I documented in an article many months ago. Oh, yeah, a full 2 calendar years plus at this point, I believe, very early on in our history. Which was something that Dryden's agent never informed him of until, actually, it was something he was never told by him personally. He was told that the Canadiens had drafted him, and he was basically just none the wiser at that point. With him
not finding out until the mid 70s, which it's interesting to note that enough of his experiences in Boston, as documented in the game, and also just that sentiment for something he didn't know about at the time, was enough for him to identify Boston as his city and the Bruins as his team. Uh, it was, which I really found quite fascinating. But on target here, um, um, for one example of his choice to go the NCAA route, paying off. Cornell won the 1967 NCAA championship, um, which was an achievement earned in his freshman season, as he went to cumulative 26-0-1 that season between the pipes, while posting a 1.46 goals against average and a 9.45 save percentage. So statistically, his best collegiate season was his freshman year. But I mean, he went a combined 50-4 the next 2 years, and they won 3 consecutive VCAC championships. So you kind of can't fuck with his overall resume. Like, it's just another stop in which he was just absolutely dominant. And of course, he did sign his first pro contract in his first professional season, which of course has a form of both fame and I guess notoriety uh, for how it occurred. He spent the majority of the year in the AHL, in which he went 16-7-8 with the Montreal Voyageurs, uh, and posted a 2.68 GAA. Due to a lack of well-kept AHL stats, we're not sure what his save percentage is. Though we know his total minutes played from that year, but we don't know his save percentage, which is kind of funny. But yeah, 1,899 minutes logged that year, and just in those 33 games, and just phenomenal performance. 3 shutouts, um, only 84 goals against. As you could mathematically determine. But in any event, he gets his 6 game cup of coffee towards the end of the season with the Canadiens, in which he goes 6-0, with a 1.65 GAA and a 9.57 save percentage. Then, of course, the postseason begins. The Boston Bruins team that had set so many records that year, especially for offensive potency, and just having a team that overall it seemed like that everyone had a good season offensively. Um, Obviously, you have Esposito and Orr at the zenith of that. But there were just so much scoring depth. So many guys had their best offensive seasons of their career. Nevertheless, the Canadiens were able to eke out a 7 game victory in that, well, subsequently winning the Stanley Cup when all was said and done, uh, having subsequently defeated the Minnesota North Stars in 6 games in the semifinals, then winning another 7 game series against Chicago in the final. At that, the cherry on top of this all, of course, is that Dryden was that year's recipient of the Conn Smythe Trophy, meaning that he had won that before even becoming eligible for having played a full rookie season, which, totally unprecedented, never something that has never happened since either. Really remarkable that he had that in his trophy case before winning the Calder Trophy the next year. But he certainly earned it. It's not to say every game was pretty, including that Bruins series, but because I mean, you look at that 1-7-5 game. It was very like a sloppy performance by both him and Eddie Johnston in that matchup. But and also, just the defensive cores overall, but kind of immaterial when all is said and done. Considering his overall consistency on that run generally with a respectable 914 save percentage. His GAA 3.0 inflated, contrasted, especially with some of his dominant runs later down the pike. Because like the 77 run, for example, where his fucking GAA was 1.55 in 14 postseason games, along with the 932 save percentage. But, for a guy who just started playing professional hockey that season, is damn impressive. Then, of course, his proper rookie year was the 1971-72 campaign, where he won the Calder and received his first All-Star game selection of 5 in his career. Of course, that year also marked for him by being one of the goaltenders in the Summit Series against the Soviet Union, which is something he also documented pretty well, that experience. Which was one of really only 2 big-time national team appearances he made alongside alongside Canada's 4th place finish at the 1969 World Championships. But of course, different era in which the best on best concept hadn't been introduced properly, really, on a consistent basis. Of course, there was the Canada Cup, which is really that's one of the things that I think maybe to hockey historians hasn't really been lost as part of the lineage of great international tournaments, but in casual discourse is probably forgotten about. But of course, the Summit Series was the most well played and meaningful incarnation of that. So it's great that he got to partake in that, beginning of the road for such of a competition and be on the winning side of it. Went 2-2 in those games. Of course, allowed 19 goals. But nevertheless, he was part of a phenomenal squad that really is one of the defining moments in the entire history of the game. But pertaining to his rookie year NHL stats, which this is something that kind of gets lost as when discussing his overall legacy, but was really, really remarkable. His record that year was a 39, 8, and 15 mark in 64 games played, with 8 shutouts, in contrast with the fact that he didn't have any over the course of his NHL stint the prior year, along with a 2.24 GAA and a 930 save percentage. An unremarkable playoff run for the Canadiens that season, as they were eliminated in the first round by the New York Rangers, who of course subsequently went to the Stanley Cup Finals, who were defeated by the Bruins in 6 games, which does sort of maybe lend credence to the fact that since the Bruins defeated the team that had eliminated the Canadiens that year, I think maybe the drought, obviously, on a consistency basis, it's undeniable that Montreal were a better team, but I do also think that maybe that drought of playoff losses was maybe a little bit sustained by a luck of the draw phenomenon to an extent as well. Because that, I think, might not have even been the only time that something like that had occurred within that era. If I'm not mistaken, I might not be able to cite a specific example right now, but there might have been at least one other time within the 70s where something like that occurred. But in any event, you know, he had respectable postseason numbers in that time frame, in that series, despite it not panning out for the Canadiens as a cohort. With the 2.3 GAA and 911 save percentage to his name, pretty decent. But of course, the tide shift, to 73, where the Canadiens win their second cup in 3 years. With him, of course, being the starting goaltender again for that one. His numbers declined a little bit, but barely at all. As far as the regular season was concerned, fewer games played as well, but still very good output cumulatively. And plus, that was the first of his 5 Vezina wins, which of course in that time frame it was a quantitative achievement in which it was awarded to the goaltender who allowed the team who allowed the fewest goals that year. But for him to have been the backbone for that many squads that had achieved that in that time frame, it's nevertheless a very respectable thing to have on his resume. We'll think of it this way: if a guy had won 5 Jennings trophies in the modern era, you would definitely count him as an absolute juggernaut, and that's something that never happens nowadays. Hellebuck having won it 2 years in a row these past couple of years is pretty damn impressive. So that's not something that you can bat an eye at in the least. When you consider that this is just such a rare gemstone moment to have in your on your resume. Considering that in a modern context, that's a feat that's only been matched by Martin Brodeur and Patrick Roy. That's it. Those are the only 2 5-time Jennings winners there are since the standards have changed. So,
and I think it's also important to note to his credit too, and in those 5 seasons where he won the Vezina, 3 of those years he led the league in save percentage as well, which just the correlation there is worth noting because it's not like in especially the modern era, it's not a given that the guy with the best goals against average in the modern era will lead the league in save percentage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And seeing a GSAA over 60 in 75-76 is still disturbing.
Yeah, wow, damn.
To be fair, with fewer teams and just the overall standard of goaltending, when you go back and look at guys like him and Jacques Plante and Terry Sachok, some of those guys put up some of the most disturbing GSAAs of just how much better they were than the average goalie in that era.
Sure.
So the fact that he cleared 40 on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate occasions in his career is just, frankly, something we'll never see.
Yeah, and although I will also say to his credit, and this was something that he was aware of, and this was another excerpt that I was reading actually more recently than those sentiments I expressed before. The league, this is actually, I think, an addendum he made in one of the epilogues. I think the league evolved a lot, even just in the short amount of time that it was, that he was in it. And we'll get on that before this episode ends for sure, because that's all very important to discuss when talking about him as an individual. It changed a lot just from when he started and was becoming a more competitive environment. Obviously, nothing like what it is now. Something that he was also self-aware of with the uh, drastically increased number of teams, and also the advent of modern free agency and a lot of other competitive, you know, deterrents, I guess we could say, that have occurred since. Uh, of course, the hard cap being a prominent example. Like it's like, nevertheless, it did change a lot, and he and his team, that franchise just remained relevant and impactful throughout the changes that happened, and also, you know, um, having to fend off potential changes, which like something he pointed out at that time was that you know, there was always at least the existential looming threat of the WHA plucking him and many other talents up from that league, which affected a lot of ways that hockey operations were conducted, and that was also why, you know, obviously he held out for one season because of the fact that were offering inadequate pay, which also allowed him to finish his law bachelor's at McGill, um, but and you know, pursue some interesting opportunities, including let me think here. I think he was. I think he was. Oh yes, there we go. One of so he was working for a pretty big law firm based out of Toronto at that time, Ulster, Hoskin and Harcourt, but which only netted him $135 a week because, you know, entry level position type situation. But he also was an intern for Ralph Nader's Public Citizen organization at that time, uh, which was a very impactful thing for him that inspired other uh, activities of his. Um, but in any event, that stood out the 73-74 season like that. That was kind of on the other side of things. It was effectively a nothing burger because due to that situation with the WHA, which like was still like a possibility when he came back. That was why they basically gave him pay raises that were significant to keep him financially comfortable, um, you know, and to keep him in the mix and to keep the team in a competitive state. So that was just another example of like, you know, the volatility of league dynamics at that time that you know, that they had to answer to and did so successfully. Let me see. Yeah, there's so for an excerpt of there's I'm gonna read like almost like 2 pages from this, but everything he says, this is in the section, of course, entitled Friday, uh, in that book, of course, as these reflections take place over the course of a week, uh, and yet covers so many meaningful things that happened in his life, both at the time and in reflection. Which I think that probably combined with authenticity that the book captures about locker room culture uh, is why it had so much impact and so much staying power. Is It's insightful, and I think a lot of it stays relevant. It's like I read about the back and forth in the dressing room uh, between those players. I think that might have even been how I learned the word tabernacle initially. Uh, for just one example, like it seems like something that would fit in the contemporary age as well. So, uh, in any event, it begins on page 176 of the reprint from, I think, 2013. Uh, after after he discusses the transactional element of sports, using, for example, like actually, you know what? I'll start on page 175. From a private, almost inconsequential matter, money moved from front and center where mostly it has remained. New teams in new hockey cities, hard pressed to sell goals and assists used to fans used to ERAs and yards per carry, sold price tags as performance, and sold both as celebrity overnight, turning 25 goal scorers like the Bruins' Derek Sanderson into $1 million superstars. Agents, happy to use old clients to publicly solicit new ones, came up with creatively inflated figures and sold them to the media as news. The story became money, lots of it, all the time. Ticket prices, TV contracts, free agents, day after day rumors, denial, speculations about who is going where, when, and mostly for how much. Sports had become Sports Inc. With big money now to be made in sports, big money would be made, and the attitude changed. Cities became markets, games became products, sports part of the entertainment business fighting for entertainment dollars. Owners sold civic pride, appealed to civic vanity, got civic concessions, moved into civic monuments, blamed civic pride, left. Players adopted pinstripe suits and permanented hair. Money only a practical imperative, a vehicle to let them as adults play what as little boys they could play for nothing was now a reason itself to play. Sports became a means to something else, a player's commitment distracted and suspect, money a motivation, so the motivation. It is something far different from what I expected nearly 9 years ago. Coming to Montreal as a part-time goalie with the Voyageurs while completing law school, I thought the Canadians would simply take over from my parents for a time, paying my tuition and books, my room and board, and little else until I graduated. So basically, the CHL experience. But then, after giving them one more year, as I was obliged to do, I would merely stop playing and they would stop paying. But I was better than we both thought. And with the team winning most of the time, dude, how did you think that after your collegiate career? Holy fuck! And the WHA to compete implicitly or explicitly for my services, my salary has increased many times. In most ways, nothing has really changed. The cars I rode in as a child uh, are the cars I drive now. The house I live in is the same. The food I eat, the clothes I wear are the same. My bank account is larger, but quantitatively, life seems different. Still, there have been changes. An agent, an accountant, a tax lawyer, and an investment counselor now ease and complicate my life. When I talk to old friends who earn a 30-year-old's average wage, they seem uncomfortable, or I do. For me, money, which seemed always a byproduct, distant, even unrelated to the game, has taken on new importance. Uh, a cause of great bitterness and division, it brought me to retire for a year, a cold-eyed standard against which I judge my relationship with the team and against which I am now in turn judged. It is the other side of the Faustian bargain. For when a high-priced player, especially a free agent, comes to a team, he comes with a price tag, the $1 million ball player. It was the market that created the price tag, but now it's the price tag that he must live up to. So with nothing more than a bigger bank account to make him a better player, he must play better, like $1 million ball player, or be bitterly resented. For many, it's too much of a burden. Surrounded by goodwill at one moment, feeling immense satisfaction at exceeding others' expectations, then signing a new contract so large that performance is no longer relevant, where expectations cannot be reached, a shutout, a home run being simply what you're paid to do. And while once you were allowed such motivations as personal or team pride, such post-game feelings as satisfaction or sadness, that no longer applies. With all that money, all other feelings, all other motivations are relinquished. Nothing else can feel good or bad. Nothing else can matter. Nothing else is relevant. Um, what else was what was always a business transaction, but never seemed so, can seem like nothing else again. It sounds like a small price to pay, except to the athlete it doesn't feel that way. I have never been able to justify the amount of money I earn. I can explain it, but that's not the same thing. I know it has to do with the nature of the entertainment business that, as with actors, dancers, musicians, and others, thousands will attend an arena and pay to watch me work, and millions more will stay home to do the same on TV. I know that large revenues are produced, which in turn get shared among those who produce them, that indeed, using strict economic argument, my teammates and I are more important to producing those revenues, more irreplaceable in their production than most owners or executives should probably be paid more. I know that as I'm as skilled at my job as most senior executives are at theirs, that I've trained as long and hard as they have, that my career is short with risks and life lingering side effects not present in other jobs, that soon I will retire and earn less than others my age with my training and experience earned than others. Uh, Still, that is not enough. And if someone asks me why I should earn more than a teacher, a nurse, a carpenter, a mechanic, I have no answer. I can simply say that offered money for something I always did for nothing and would have continued to do for whatever the going rate was. Uh, with no obvious strings attached, I take it, which, if eminently human, doesn't come with without its own psychic downside. Shit. Man. Like, it's you know, digesting that is always interesting. Seeing like someone have like, still even like bearing in mind that a career in that trade is so much more transient than in so many other walks of life. Probably all of them. I mean, you're a 40-year-old is considered young professionally. If not necessarily as attractive to potential employers as someone who has just graduated college, but nevertheless, is not considered long in the tooth or in the twilight of their career, to quote Dan Duquette pertaining to Roger Clemens. God, I guess like after wearing that Yankee suck shirt to that show last week, I couldn't not bring up something pertaining to that. Of course, it was the Blue Jays, to which he went to first, and then promptly won I think 2 Cy Youngs there, which made that a freezing cold take immediately. But nevertheless, like you would, in probably the mind of many, including myself, I can justify athlete salaries considering how much more money the top of the chain makes, and also how short their careers are in contrast with so many other trained professionals out there. But he acknowledges that and still has like a sense of I guess existential remorse over the nature of his job, despite that, which is really impressive. But I guess shifting back to the narrative in sequential order. Let's see. So in '73, he was also a first All-Star team member, which was the first of 5 subsequently that occurred again in '76, '77, '78, and '79 as part of that dominant 4-year run that he had so much input on as that team, did something that really has been matched or bettered in terms of consistent multi-year dominance only once since then, in the form of the Islanders dynasty that took the mantle from them immediately thereafter. And despite how good Edmonton was, and despite the sustained relevance that Detroit would have subsequently, those 2 consecutive dynasties have not had a parallel since then, and likely never will, even with the fact that you have teams that have consistently good runs, even in the cap era, as we've had, Pittsburgh, Chicago, Los Angeles asterisk, not really type situation, especially considering what it's been like for them since then. Tampa Bay, Florida now, there's just not, it's just untenable for there to be that level of domination and just consistent, accolades that have occurred since then. Yeah, of course, Stanley Cup champion, those 4 times consecutively. A sweep of the Philadelphia Flyers won it for them as they ended effectively the Broad Street Bully era. A combination of that and that defeat, which of course occurred at a point wherein I'm trying to remember exactly. He had, Bernie Parent had, limited utility that season, only appearing in 11 regular season games and 8 in the postseason, which those neck issues and his eye injury were kind of combined with that loss were sort of the death knell for the Broad Street Bullies era. But in any event, Wayne Stevenson was the starting goaltender consequently in all 4 of those games. As the run, despite the best efforts of Reggie Leach, who was one of a very small number of players, to have won the Conn Smythe on a losing team. Philadelphia was just outmatched in that final, which, of course, very good team of their own with 3 Hall of Famers in the form of Barber, Clark, and of course the injured Perrant. And some very good all-stars with, Leach accompanied by that year's first overall pick, Mel Bridgman, who didn't, have like a tear down the walls type career, but still a respectable one overall. Some good players on the back end, like Andre DuPont, Joe Watson. Some other supplementary forwards who are more than respectable, including Gary Dornhofer, Terry Murray was one of the defensemen on that team as well. Choking situation. Terry Crisp, this is part of the forward depth as well. Ross Lonsberry, some tough guys like Dave Schultz and Bob Kelly. On the Hall of Fame, the list of Hall of Famers beyond Dryden, and of course, both head coaches were Hall of Famers in the form of Scotty Bowman and the late great Fred Shiro. But you look at the laundry list on the Canadiens: Yvonne Cournoyer, Bob Gainey, Guy Lafleur, Guy Lapointe, Jacques Lemaire, Larry Robinson, Serge Savard, Steve Shutt. Like, the depth on that team, and some other respectable names like Mario Tremblay, for just one example, Don Ari, Pierre Bouchard, Murray Wilson. This team was just it was the epitome of stacked. It's no wonder that they swept back-to-back finals as they pulled that same thing again on a good Bruins team with, of course, Busick getting up there in age, but still relevant. Brad Park on the back end. Jerry Cheevers was the goaltender. John Rattel, also known as Gentleman John. Some very good players in the form of Rick Middleton, 989 career point tallier. Stan Jonathan, mostly a tough guy, but had some offensive upside. Peter McNabb, very talented center. Giles Jobert was the other goaltender on that team. I mean, you're not fucking with that. Terry O'Reilly obviously had a terrific career. Rick Smith, fairly respectable defenseman, though, of course, has some ignominious plus-minus stats due to his time with the California Golden Seals, but that's not his fault. He certainly was a reliable player for those Bruins teams that he was on, including having captured a Stanley Cup with them in 1970, being very good on the back end. But also John Wensink, tough SOB for sure. Don Marcotte, pretty decent numbers as a depth winger. Plenty. He could play all three forward positions as well. He was definitely like a good contributor in a supplementary capacity to some of those teams, including both of their cup winners at the beginning of the decade. Let's see. Gary Doak, not the best skater, but also a guy who's a pretty decent, staple on the back end. Very respectable career of 789 career games played. Buddy Schmatz, he was pretty tough as well. Definitely there is some distinction, that gradually comes to light here about the way these teams constructed their roster, which definitely played a part, as well as just this coaching discrepancy. Let's be real. Like, there is just like such a power gap between the mind behind the bench in the form of Scotty Bowman versus hold on just a second. Something went wrong on my tech end here. I did something that I was not supposed to do. Fortunately, it was quite easily alleviated. Yeah, I mean, you look at that, you contrast that with Don Cherry, of course, obviously he had a Jack Adams to his name at that point. And the next year, of course, he presided over a team that had an NHL record of players with 20 or more goals with 11 to their name, but not a genius. The whole too many men on the ice situation kind of exemplifies that. Although he was self-aware enough to be like, I might as well have had 9 guys out there with how poorly that situation went at that point. But yeah, I'm not going to waste any more breath on him. I kind of hate the fact that he's even mentioned in this episode. Of course, it was inevitably going to happen at some point, considering, that next year those two teams face each other in the finals again, with the Canadiens emerging for victors once more in a 6-game series, which included 2 games that went to overtime, including, the infamous Game 2. Of course, in both instances that ended with, the Canadiens hoisting the cup on Boston Garden ice. And then, of course, it all comes to a close in 1979 with the Canadiens defeating the Rangers, who, of course, appropriately enough, were in their other side, as alluded to before with the mention of Brad Park, with in the form of their Phil Esposito era, which incidentally, Esposito is the only Hall of Famer on that Rangers team. Not counting Shiro, who, of course, at that point had moved on to coaching the rival Rangers, who he had spent his playing career as a defenseman for, appropriately enough. But yeah, a 5-game win for the Habs in that one, with them clinching it with a 4-1 victory. In kind of a shot suppression victory for sure, as Dryden only had to make 14 stops in that game. But nevertheless, they got to celebrate on the Montreal Forum ice in this instance, which was a nice, cap off to that era for them after, having so many of their triumphs come on road ice. Yeah, the team defense really showed out for them in that series, as the most stops that Dryden made in a game was 23 in game 2. But, he was stable in that as things came to a close for him in his playing career, as he retired at the age of 31, having achieved all you really can in such a short span, and wanting to pursue other opportunities, which, of course, one of his first big things in his post-playing days was broadcasting work. Of course, tying into another moment that he was present for and contributed to, he was, of course, the color commentator opposite Al Michaels for the 1980 Winter Olympics in Lake Placid, which, of course, means that he was on the call for the Miracle on Ice in another instance, if, the Soviet Union having been on the losing end of a historic moment in hockey history, which didn't happen often. And of course, those moments are very consequential for a reason. They're put on the pedestal they are, due to their infrequency. And of course, the U.S. went on to win their second gold medal in that tournament after defeating Finland in the final game of the second round robin under the format that existed at the time, which, of course, was their first since 1960 at what was then known as Squaw Valley, a team that Herb Brooks was the head coach, of course, was cut from. So there was a nice full circle moment for him. It's really cool that Dryden got to be on the call for that. It's definitely it was definitely the zenith of his post-playing career in an entertainment context, not counting, of course, his pretty prolific, and meaningful writing output. Despite the fact that he also was on the call for the 84 and 88 Olympics. There is some irony, though, of course, but right before Mike Eruzione's game-winning goal, there was a bit of it's kind of akin to John Madden's the Patriots have got to play for overtime call in Super Bowl 36, wherein Dryden declared that Jim Craig had made too many good saves, and was perhaps worried that the team was depending a little bit too much on him. But of course, Winthrop's Rizzo made that a freezing cold take within a matter of moments. And then, of course, their conditioning did the rest of the work. As you all we all remember that those guys were taking short shifts to keep the legs fresh, which was a big determining factor in them closing out that game. But some other, moments in his life beyond that include him having been um, the president of the Toronto Maple Leafs for a period of time. And he also had some teaching stints at his alma mater, McGill University, and also some lecture work at the University of Ottawa. This all occurring around approximately, save for the McGill, that was 2012, but this was all, most of these developments occurred around the turn of the millennium. Of course, he was also elected to the House of Commons in 2004, I believe. Hold on, let me double check on that. Yeah, let's see. So his two, he was the Minister of Social Development for 2004, from 2004 to 2006, and for Parliament for York Centre, also known as MP for short, from 2004 to 2011 with the Liberal Party. He had ran for the for the leadership of the Liberal Party in 2006, but only came in fifth place, which let's see. It was I think some of the timing of it was poor, considering it was announced at a convention in Montreal, and I think his limited ability to speak French might have gone against him, and plus, let's see, I think it seems like his campaign was not run particularly well, and especially in the finance respect. And there was probably some worries about the establishment that, about his supporter base being rooted primarily in the fact that, it was due a lot to just his playing career rather than letting his then established political acumen do any sort of talking, which and of course, it did while he won in re-election for his MP seat in 2006 and 2008, he did see dwindling support in those campaigns, in contrast with his initial victory, but in which ultimately culminated in him losing to conservative candidate Mark Adler by almost 6,000 votes in the 2011 federal election. Which was I guess just the culmination of that buildup, but that also, it's interesting considering he had focused primarily on his own re-election campaign, which just talking about this from an analytical standpoint, one thing I gathered is you can't really compare one for one, but having extensively studied what it's like to be to run for say a U.S. congressional spot, a U.S. congressional seat as in a competitive battleground jurisdiction, or in one where in which you are a victor in I in while representing a party that is not the majority for your uh, you know your constituency. Um, it's usually highly recommended that you start raising funds and campaigning right away, because otherwise you're gonna fucking get crushed and lose. But in this case, this and it usually just work favors for said leader, but or statesman, or whatever terminology you want to use. Perhaps politician is a dirty word nowadays, but which I guess is a statement I can make that is overtly political and have it not serve any controversy whatsoever. But it's like, and nevertheless, it just seemed like the tides turned, against his favor, and that his run in politics just ended at that point. But it is definitely a fascinating chapter in his life that was so multi-layered, that in which he pursued so many interests in just like his various callings in life at the pace that he wanted to go at, which like really like between that and having lived to a pretty ripe old age of 78, I definitely wish his life could have been even longer than that. In the end, ended it in such ill health. But like, you can't really ask for more from that while we're here. Like it's this guy, achieved like the peak of success in the sport that he played, that he made money, doing what he loved, and in that stage of his life, then achieved meaningful success elsewhere. Wrote like the defining text for his sport, and was present or a part of so many different meaningful moments, and just went where his life, where life took him, and where he felt like inclined to go with things, and just is remembered by so many people in such a fond light, even former adversaries in his sporting career. Like, it's just like there might not be another example of a life well lived that is better than the one that we commemorated on this episode. Like, I just like it, and I was like so ill prepared to talk about the magnitude of it. Like, that was like probably the biggest factor in why I could not bring myself to like get this rolling right away. Is there's just so much, like there was just so much meaning to everything that he stood for, that he did, that he accomplished, that like it's almost there almost isn't enough time, even it's certainly not within the hour that we allot ourselves to do something like this, but almost in the span of just a night in general. Like, you gotta give yourself all as much time in the evening, as in an evening as possible, and not cover everything, and really fully capture the magnitude of the life that he led in his time here, and just really do it justice. So for all, I just want to wrap things up in a full body context for this episode by again thanking him for the contributions that he made, that shaped our lives directly or indirectly. You know, um, just for by just having done what he did and having you know communicated about it in such an eloquent manner, and uh, really giving us something to celebrate. Uh, you know, uh, all I can say at the end of all of this is rest in peace, Ken. You know, uh, what it's just so remarkable that everything that you carved out, everything about what you carved out on your trail in life means so much to so many, even, you know, uh, bearing in mind, like, it's one of those things where it's just like team affiliation is irrelevant. When you see it, uh, when you see an absolute titan, the sport, and especially given the life lived overall, you just have to give all the respect that is due.
Well said.
Um, as is a custom for episodes such as these, there was not a traditional big finish tonight. There's just there just isn't really a place for that for takes based stuff for takes based content in such an episode as this. So I guess this is time for the usual sign off. I think we made it count this week, despite the time off that we had to take last week, and we're appreciative of the fact that people were on board and supported that. Um, and we'll do so subsequently. So, as is tradition, thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you to everyone who's continuously checking us out on Spotify and YouTube. Um, I guess we. I guess business is about to resume as normal. There's already kind of like a start on that. But yeah, we'll definitely be carrying the impact and memory of such greatness as we trudge forward in the various spaces that it will be involved in, such as the collegiate hockey realm. Is that as we're really knocking on the door of that, um, and yeah, we look forward to everyone being on board for that. So, um, with that all said, take care, everybody. Have a great night. Shit.